All right. Our lead story is the hive mind.
Collective consciousness.
And of course, it's the beast system.
Speaking of the beast system, beast system.
And this is being shared around alternative media outlets, especially in response. And of course, it's the article from the World Economic Forum that was published on August 16th. It's titled, "Augmented Tech Can Change the Way We Live, but Only with the Right Support and Vision."
They do such a good job at making sure that everybody knows your crazy Christian conspiracy theorist friends were right all along.
Yeah.
Thank you, World Economic Forum.
Yeah. And of course, they always have that little caveat at the top. This article has been intentionally misrepresented on sites that spread false information. Please read the piece for yourself before sharing or commenting. So, it would be
let's
easy.
Do it.
Yeah, it would be easy to sort of, read another article that bashes it or whatever. But let's just take a look on our own. I'm not going to read the whole thing because, it takes some time.
This is what we do here.
Yeah.
This is what we do. We do the work so you don't have to.
Right.
And we are going to bring you straight from the mainstream source. Just a quick comment. That little disclaimer that they put up there is exactly why we read from mainstream sources.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't like that we read from mainstream sources and, dissect them from the OG source. A lot of people just want to read weird blogs and Facebook posts about the article without actually reading it. And that allows for the World Economic Forum to get away with a lot by putting this disclaimer there. Like, don't listen to your crazy conspiracy theorist friends. They didn't even read the article, okay?
All right, so let's read it. Here, there's a couple bullet points, but let's just skip down to the important parts. Superheroes have been dominating big and small screens for a while, but there's a subtle change happening. Many children expect to develop superpowers themselves. Hello, what have we been saying for like 10 years with predictive programming of all the Marvel
programming?
It's just kind of like, hello. I thought, we've been saying that. I mentioned it so many times when I break down Marvel movie, whatever I was doing on the Face Like This on YouTube channel. And
we had to stop. We had to kind of ban the term predictive programming because it's so prevalent. It became not even an interesting analysis on things.
Yeah.
But now you have the World Economic Forum coming out directly and basically admitting that it's all been predictive programming.
Yeah. These expectations may sound unattainable, but we're already making the first strides towards an augmented society. Trade Affairs are boasting augmented reality goggles that show technicians where a particular screw should go. Your own phone gives you information about your fitness in real time or tells you about the latest fad. Augmentation can be defined as the extension of rehabilitation, interesting to use that word, where technological aids such as glasses, cochlear implants, and prosthetics are designed to restore a lost or impaired function. Add it to completely healthy individuals, and such technology can augment. Night goggles, exoskeletons, and brain-computer interfaces build up the picture. The augmenting technology will help in all stages of life, children in a learning environment, professionals at work, and ambitious senior citizens. Ambitious senior citizens.
You know what? I will give them that. You got to be an ambitious senior citizen to get into VR and stuff.
So they kind of get into the, what augmented reality can do. I have some highlights throughout the article. Here's an example they give. Many children with attention deficits struggle in school. In the best case, they get special education services or classroom accommodations. However, with extra visual and audio guidance that blocks off excess stimuli, an otherwise enabled child can cope with a standard school environment. And when class is over and playtime begins, they can take the aids off. Yay.
You know what? As someone who probably could have been diagnosed with ADHD as a kid, although I never did. That was not something my parents were interested in. Yeah. I can affirm that working in VR like I do now makes it way easier to actually work for 5-6 hours straight on this podcast while not getting distracted by squirrels or roosters or emus.
Yeah, you got your own virtual squirrels and birds and stuff flying around, right?
Yes,
not the real ones, the fake ones that are bothering you now.
I've got these virtual butterflies that fly around me.
Yeah.
Continue. Sorry.
Augmented reality doesn't end there. Your phone might feel like part of your body, but it's not put in through surgery. Technology will become more intertwined with the body in the form of implants, but it will also seamlessly integrate with the environment. You might have sensors in a chair, for example. Ooh. Personally, I don't mind sensors in a chair.
Sensors in a chair.
But okay.
That's the thing, man. That's how the beast system gets you. It's how it's how the book of the Revelation of John is sort of, all leads up to this dystopian apocalyptic world in which all of our chairs have sensors in them, Gons.
They really have been focusing on
then what will we do?
They've been focusing on the behind there a lot. Don't know why. Yeah. Are we moving towards a brave new world? As scary as chip implants may sound, they form part of a natural evolution that wearables once underwent. Hearing aids or glasses no longer carry a stigma. They are accessories and are even considered a fashion item, beast fashion. Likewise, implants will evolve into a commodity. If that sounds unlikely, then consider the alternatives we currently use. Drugs often show unwanted effects because they affect multiple biological processes at the same time. Someone on long-term medication may want to try an implant that sends very precise electrical or optical pulses instead. Oh, okay.
Of course.
Getting an implant is obviously more invasive than picking up a pair of glasses. Generally, implants will be linked to medical conditions. The extent to which a particular device becomes common will depend on the technology's functionality and how far it's integrated into your body and daily life, parentheses style. And it goes on for a little bit. And then it goes into the brain implants. So brain implants take us one step further and allow us to tap straight into the body's quote unquote operating system. Which, if you were new to this kind of material and, you started paying attention to stuff in the last couple years, I think it was Moderna who had their whole thing as, their part of their advertising on their website was, fixing or they're tinkering with the software of life or something. I can't remember the exact terminology, but I remember them using software as sort of a term that describes our biology. So very similar there. We have already started interfacing with the brain using neural probes to mitigate symptoms of epilepsy, Parkinson's disease, or depression. Much application will remain based on medical necessity rather than a mind-reading tool.
That's what they always say.
That's what they always say.
That's what they always say.
While it is true that companies like Neuralink have been targeting the brain from the get-go, brain implants may not be the first choice in our augmented society. Yeah, it's going to be our 666th choice, I'd say.
Nice.
And then it goes on for a little bit more further down. Just with wearables, no one turns their head anymore for medical necessities like hearing aids or pulse monitors. Even in an educational and professional setting, smart goggles, phones, wristbands, and the like are commonplace. Gaming is the next target. Can we say metaverse? The question is whether implants will follow a similar evolution. Health? Plausible. Education and profession? Potentially. We may wish to give dyslexic children new opportunities through implants that translate in real time. Of course. Yeah, children with that are dyslexic, just jab a microchip in them, right? On the other hand, dyslexia is a personal trait. Do we want to change that? As a society, we need to make a choice. Do we want to accept human limitations associated with learning or aging, not Asians? So maybe the Asians don't have to because we're allegedly smart. I don't think we are, but the final application realm, gaming, and even intelligence augmentation may seem far-fetched, but only the future can tell. The idea of a chip in your body if the idea of a chip in your body makes you cringe, consider all the pharmaceuticals you take without question. Once again, making that one-to-one connection there. Yeah. We often forget that these drugs are related to amphetamines. They affect the brain and have long-term side effects. We may consider electroceuticals, small implants that mitigate symptoms of various disorders by sending out small electrical pulses. Talk about problem, reaction, solution.
Yeah, we got to remember that term, electroceuticals.
Yeah, like pharmaceuticals, but electrical signals, so electroceuticals. The limits on implants are going to be set by ethical arguments rather than scientific capacity. For example, should you implant a tracking chip in your child? There are solid rational reasons. Should you?
Should you do that?
There are solid rational reasons for it, like safety. Would you actually do it? Is it a bridge too far? I'm glad that she's asking these questions. At the very least, she's presenting it in the form of a question. And this is where I think this is the thing that I think people need to really pay attention to, because it's one thing for us to say it. It's one thing for even the science to say it's possible. But who's really in control of the ethics? And here's what she says: ethics should not be preached from an academic ivory tower. Rather, overarching or independent institutions should guide policymakers and researchers in the augmented society on the do's and don'ts and help build an ethical framework on societal aspects of augmented reality technology. And then she gives some examples.
Again, the appeal to authority for ethical considerations.
Not the academic ivory tower, the globalist ivory tower. It's so weird how she throws in the phrase ivory tower as this negative thing, but then she just presents her own ivory tower, which is the Council of Europe. She mentions the Rothenau Institute in the Dutch government, Chile talking about doing this kind of thing. And then she talks about how ethics will advise us. This is the last paragraph, and then we'll kind of wrap it here. With the right support, vision, and audacity, these transformative events that go beyond augmentation become possible. When do we enter the gray zone? Ethics will advise us. Okay, ethics will advise us. Is ethics a god?
Ethics will advise us. It goes back to something that we've been sort of harping on for a while, but also kind of fits into our experience over the past couple of years with with everything, is that, ethics originating from elite circles, ethics originating from centralized power. This also moves into the civic atheism, the religion of atheism. They said we got to come up with our own ethics that we can all live by, and will be handed down from on high. But instead of on high from God, it's on high from the government.
Right, and they've even talked about creating modern mythology to help assist in people understanding this new paradigm and stuff like that. So
this is they're talking about doing modern mythology. I mean, they are literally making a religion out of these transformative technologies, similar to the religion based around transformative events, like Burning Man.
Right. So a couple takeaways. Number one, there's a lot of counter arguments. A lot of people are becoming aware of all this stuff, but I think the World Economic Forum is able to present this and just be really outright and bold because more people are realizing it. So it's kind of a give and take here, and in so many ways, I think it's a little too late. I think this is going to happen to a large segment of our human population. And it's going to cause all kinds of chaos in the world. And I think it's going to create a sort of cyberpunk society, like people that will use the technology, but not necessarily implant. And, everyone's going to have their own sort of division lines, but we've talked about that as well with Dr. Hugo de Garis. Many years ago, he talked about the cosmists, the cyborgists, and the Terrans, and this sort of this oncoming war that he thinks over 1 billion people can actually die in this war, which is pretty biblical. And the thing is, though, the Bible really predicted this type of thing, this exact thing almost, and it should come no surprise to any of us that have been paying attention. But it's important to point out that it really is proof that the Bible is true. And, history written before it happens, as Chuck Missler always said. And it also means that Jesus is coming back. So there's nothing to be truly afraid of. A lot of people push this stuff in fear, but it's more so like, hey, there's hope here. There's an answer here. And that's what really compelled me when I first became a believer. And I was like, okay, is the Bible true? Let me find out some stuff, and learning about transhumanism and that whole movement in the context of the book of Revelation or the book of Daniel and stuff like that, where it's really colorful. And, a lot of people say it's all an analogy or metaphor. It's like, there's kind of a literal thing to it, which is the society that we're building all around us. So just something to keep in mind, that it's not this like doom and gloom thing, that at least I've been trying to thread that needle, right? Because it is sort of straight dystopian. It is disturbing, but also you got to find that hope, and that hope comes in the word. So there's that. Real briefly, one of the outlets that pushed back the Federalist, who, interestingly enough, I did find on the Harvard list, because they boast 6.5 million viewers, and it's a private for-profit.
You're talking about the
Federalist outlet.
Ownership. Yeah, right. But you're talking the Harvard list being the chart that shows ownership of mainstream outlets, news outlets. And
it's really interesting, because they talk about how the Federalist, a wholly independent division of FDR LST Media, and they link to an article we read a couple years ago, the most powerful conservative couple you've never heard of, Liz and Dick Uihlein, and how they were funding operations like this. So it's just kind of interesting to look at. So in the article from the Federalist, they have the headline here: UN program teaching kids SEL, it's SEL, really seeks to kill individualism. And the SEL stands, so I'll just read the first paragraph. School districts around the world are racing to implement social and emotional learning, SEL programs, in the name of improving their students' social and emotional skills. In fact, according to the global purveyor of SEL standards, 27 states have so far adopted K through 12 SEL competencies, and all 50 states have adopted SEL competencies for pre-K students. But where is this massive push for SEL coming from, and what are the motives behind it? And it goes into how UNESCO, if you know about UNESCO, founded by the brother Huxley, obviously who wrote Brave New World. So it's all connected, folks. And it just goes into how they're basically abusing children. And, I like the end here where it talks about how they say that developing the attributes of compassion, kindness, and empathy in children is a noble goal, and some of that development can appropriately happen in school, but infusing digitally connected, UNESCO-endorsed systemic SEL curriculums into the classroom of the world to instill pluralistic thinking in children is not the answer. And I tend to agree with that takeaway.
Well, it's when it comes to the schooling, it's interesting because, as we know, the public school system here in America has been losing funding for decades. Yeah. And, depending on where you are in the country, art, music, band, PE in some places, all being defunded, and those options being taken out of schools. But it takes a globalist, quote unquote, nonprofit to come in and actually add programs to schools, adding programs instead of taking programs away. So defunding public schools in the U.S., for whatever reason that's happening, you've got globalist institutions coming in and providing, I'm assuming they're providing the funding for these brand new programs built to, and we all know already that the public school system is not for education. It's to make
indoctrination.
People. Yeah. Yes, it's indoctrination. Make you a good citizen. Don't cause any trouble. Learn to sit at a desk for 8 hours a day so you can grow up to do your job and follow orders. We already know that that's the case. And sneaking in these programs about, emotional health and what was the name of it again? Can you?
SEL, social emotional learning. SEL.
Social emotional learning. Yeah. I mean, if there is more of an acronym for sort of brainwashing your children to just be good, obedient citizens, I could not think of one.
I'll keep you warm and safe in my people's zoo.
Exactly. And of course, the funding coming from international institutions rather than from our own tax dollars. So working directly into the World Economic Forum, Great Reset, New World Order 2.0 sort of program. Yeah, it works really nice.
It's all biblical.
It's really well organized, well executed plan.
It's got to be biblical.
And people that don't get it or maybe are afraid, they don't have any excuses.
People don't even read their Bible, for heaven's sakes.
Yeah.
That is becoming more and more apparent.
Yeah. Just real
Speaking
quick.
of which,
Before we go on, I just want to mention today it was published by HT Tech. You just won't believe that this Tesla owner did this to himself. He microchipped his hand.
I can totally believe
No,
that.
I was going to say, yeah, that is not unbelievable at all. And it's old news. Old news. Come on, where you been?
And the fun part is, you talk about this slippery slope concept, which we've been seeing play out in the world recently in so many different aspects of society. But, it is the technocratic influence of those like Elon that have forever been sort of theorized to be what brings in microchipping, what brings in cashless society, things like this. So of course he chips himself for his Tesla.
Because who needs car keys? What are you, archaic?
Yes, this is old school, man. Get out of here, Grandpa.